guys, what's going on? It is Ash here coming at you today in Clash Royale. It is time to update the legendary rankings here on the channel. There are now 17 legendary cards in the game. Man, we were just 3 legendary cards away from 20. I feel the pain of the free-to-play players watching right now. That's a lot of upgrading. That's a lot of years worth of upgrading, let's be honest, inside the game. But there's been a lot of moving and shaking, a lot of kind of jockeying for position in a legendary card pool that are all really strong, with the exception of maybe number 17. Let's just start there. The Night Witch. The Night Witch is a card that certainly does not feel legendary, at least in my opinion. I do think the Night Witch probably needs a little bit of a buff, maybe a lot of bit of a buff. I don't want the OP Night Witch meta, but there's no doubt about it. Out of all the legendary cards, Night Witch definitely stands on her own as really the most lackluster of all of them. I would like to see Supercell make some adjustments to make Night Witch feel legendary again, but for now, she falls at number 17 on the list. Coming in at number 16 is the Inferno Dragon. So the Inferno Dragon is actually a really good card. Again, I think that number 1 all the way through number 16 do not need a buff. They are really powerful both in a vacuum and in certain specific meta decks, and heck, even in some off-meta decks. But right now, the Inferno Dragon just doesn't feel super strong as it has in kind of years past inside the meta. It is in a couple meta decks, in the Mega Knight deck, and also in the Lava Hound deck with the Double Dragon. But you know, people carry Zap way more than they used to right now. There's more E-Wiz going around as well because there's more Sparky. So those reset cards are actually more prevalent inside the meta, and for that reason, I decided to go with Inferno Dragon at number 16. Coming in at number 15 is, man, how the mighty have fallen. It is the Lumberjack. The Lumberjack was one of the top 5 best cards inside the entire game. Forget just legendary cards in previous metas. But now, I don't know, man. I think it's more the story of the Mini P.E.K.K.A, the rise of the Mini P.E.K.K.A after the last Lumberjack nerf. Mini P.E.K.K.A is more prevalent now on ladder. Mini P.E.K.K.A is a preferred option in CRL and also in grand challenges. So I think that the scales just kind of tipped a little bit in the Mini P.E.K.K.A's favor, whereas in the previous meta, Mini P.E.K.K.A was rarely played. It still got some action on ladder, but that was about it. Now everything has shifted towards the Mini P.E.K.K.A and away from the Lumberjack. Could he use maybe a small buff, or could they maybe nerf the Mini P.E.K.K.A just slightly to make things more even? Well, I'll leave that one up to you guys, but I'm going to go ahead and put Lumberjack at number 15 on the list because of the Mini P.E.K.K.A just doing everything the Lumberjack does except for dropping Rage and doing it a little bit better in terms of his overall DPS output. Coming in at number 14 is the Magic Archer. Magic Archer is way better than he used to be. Let's face it, they buffed him a couple times after that really big, catastrophic nerf to this card about a year or so ago, maybe even over a year now. All these years are kind of blending together in Clash Royale as we enter into the 4th year of the game's existence. Anyway, Magic Archer is much stronger, still seen as more of a high skill card, still a beloved card and a favorite card of many of my viewers and even of pro players. And because it's been such a high skill card, it actually sees a little bit lower use rates on ladder and higher use rates in grand challenges and in CRL. But either way, it's pretty easily countered, but I guess you could say that about every card. It's kind of a lame way to describe the downside of a card. But I do think that the prevalence of other 4 elixir support cards kind of keep it in check towards the bottom of our list. Talking about Musketeer, E-Wiz, Hunter, there's a lot of these 4 elixir cards that are all very strong and all are a little bit redundant, although they all have their own niches. But anyway, for all those reasons, I'm putting Magic Archer at number 14. Coming in at 13 is the newly buffed Royal Ghost. So Royal Ghost is an interesting card. It's still only seen in that same meta deck, the P.E.K.K.A Bridge Spam deck. But because of the strength, the newfound strength of the improved radius of Royal Ghost, it's actually a really viable option, and it feels much stronger inside the arena. He was already a really underrated type card. You get a lot of utility, the invisibility, the splash, all for 3 elixir. He's not too bad, and he has a decent amount of HP as well. After that radius buff, I think he's a solid card, a really good card in that P.E.K.K.A deck, but because of his limited kind of versatility inside the actual meta right now, I'm keeping him again towards the bottom of today's list, so he comes in at number 13. Coming in at number 12 is the Ram Rider. Personally, Ram Rider is one of my favorite legendary cards, so this is taking my own personal biases out of this one, but I talked to Zereldo, a player who recently came on the channel covering a P.E.K.K.A deck, probably yesterday or the day before, and I asked him, why are we not seeing more Ram Rider right now? And he says that the Battle Ram for 1 elixir less, you don't need that defensive utility that the Ram Rider provides in a lot of these decks. You have plenty of defensive options in the E-Wiz and whatever the Mega Minion or Minions, whatever you're running in your deck right now. So they'd rather have that higher connection damage for 1 less elixir in the Battle Ram right now, and still having that same kite ability and that extra damage again on impact than they would the Ram Rider. So because of that, because of all those kind of reasons, the Ram Rider is actually seeing lower and lower use rates right now. So I think she's still an amazing legendary card. Again, one of my favorites. There's nothing like stopping a balloon, totally denying damage with a defensive Ram Rider. It doesn't feel right, but I love it. The snare ability is really cool, but for all the reasons that I outlined about the Battle Ram versus the Ram Rider, and because Ram Rider is still really only used in just that specific one bridge spam deck, we're going to go ahead and put her at number 12 on our list. So coming in at number 11 is the Bandit. So there's no doubt about it. I said there were some big changes to this list. Well, one of them is the Bandit, the Ram Rider, and because of bridge spam taking a big hit, thanks to, say it with me, the Fisherman. Bridge spam not used as much as it was when P.E.K.K.A was super strong in the last meta. It's still a viable deck right now, still one of the, top meta decks, but it's just not as popular as it used to be because of Fisherman shutting down pushes. So because of that, we've seen a lot less Bandit as well. Bandit's still an amazing card. I love the Bandit, and really you can make the case that any card from here on out is an incredibly viable card that could maybe potentially belong in the top 5 legendary cards. But right now, because of her use rates overall, the Bandit is really going to rank the lowest that we've ever seen here on our legendary rankings, coming in at number 11. Coming in at number 10 is the Ice Wizard. Ice Wizard for 3 elixir is still one of the most unique and versatile defensive cards in the game. Ice Wizard still synergizes incredibly well with Tornado, and Ice Wizard still remains just a really strong, robust defensive option in a variety of different decks, especially in the control archetype, namely Graveyard, which is actually doing pretty well in the meta. So Ice Wiz, still one of my favorite cards, the OG of legendary cards in Clash Royale. We gotta give the guy some love, so that's why he comes in at number 10. Stomping into the arena at number 9 is the Mega Knight. Mega Knight, another one of those cards that benefited from the P.E.K.K.A nerf. P.E.K.K.A's range was changed from long to medium. P.E.K.K.A's still a strong option inside the game, but not nearly as popular as she was last month in August and in even previous months to August. So because of all of those things, we're seeing more and more Mega Knight. Mega Knight Zap is back in the arena. We're seeing kind of unorthodox, crazy Mega Knight decks. Mega Knight Sparky I shared on the channel. We also shared a Mega Knight, Mega Knight Royal Giant bait deck. There's just a lot of different kind of versatility for a 7 elixir Mega Knight, which doesn't really feel right, but it's true nonetheless. And we see that reflected on ladder, at both high ladder and even mid ladder. Mega Knight's a really popular option. Plus, there's no better feeling than dropping a Mega Knight down on those annoying overleveled wizards and witches inside the arena. So that's why he comes in, the big fella, at number 9 on our list. Coming in at number 8 is Princess. So log bait still definitely a thing inside the game right now. It's definitely still a meta deck, but we're seeing less and less of it. We're seeing actually Princess used a lot with Hog to keep her use rates kind of high inside the game. Princess still one of the most unique legendary cards, along with the Ice Wiz, the OG of legendary cards inside Clash Royale. Princess is very versatile, both for chip damage at the bridge, and of course on defense, she is an absolute powerhouse, one of the only cards that won't be targeted by the opponent's towers because she never crosses the bridge. So for all those reasons, Princess still right in the middle of our list, maybe towards the top at number 8. Coming in at number 7 is Graveyard. Graveyard is in a really healthy spot right now inside the game. All those giant skeleton Graveyard decks, Fisherman synergizes pretty well with Graveyard as well. Graveyard is one of those weird cards. It's difficult to rank it when you look at the stats, right? Graveyard has below 10% use rates on ladder, which compared to cards like Giant and Hog Rider, those really popular ladder cards, they just pales in comparison. But then you look at its win rates, and Graveyard is way up there in win rates. Top 5 card at the time of this recording in terms of win rates on ladder. So it's definitely a really solid card. Why is it not more popular? It is a legendary, but it's not really level dependent that much. So for whatever reason, just not played a lot on ladder. I'm sure some Graveyard viewers right now might have some more keen insight as to why that might be. But either way, I thought ranking it kind of right towards the top of this list made a lot of sense. High win rates, use rates kind of average, so comes in at number 7 today. At number 6 is the Ewiz. Ewiz, always one of the best support cards at 4 Elixir, and I think that I mentioned this in previous videos to this, but the Ewiz and the Mega Knight, 2 of my favorite legendary cards, because I think that Clash Royale Supercell, adding cards that have the enter the arena ability is just so compelling, both from just a fun standpoint and to like the complexity of strategic elements that it adds to the game. I'm a big fan of the Ewiz, and Ewiz is seeing more use, especially since the Musketeer was looked at as almost OP in previous metas. Now with a little bit more Sparky inside the meta, we're starting to see a little bit more Ewiz to kind of level things out. I think the Ewiz is in a very healthy spot as well right now. That's why I rank him number 6. Well, with the death of the Barbarian Barrel, finally, Supercell, you did it. Are you happy you killed the Barb Barrel? Barb Barrel is really rare to see right now inside the arena, and the Log, coming in at number 5, is really back to being meta in the spot that it was since its inception into the game. The Log is just a really strong card, and whether it's just pushing back Princes or Battle Rams or Ram Riders, or used as an anti-Goblin Barrel, anti-bait card, the Log is just incredibly versatile. It's a 2 elixir spell, and it's just one of the best spells and best cards inside the entire game. Not much more to say about the Log. That's why it ranks in at number 5 on the list. So coming in at number 4 is Sparky. Sparky is back. Sparky went from, I don't know, top 3 or top 5 legendary card 2 rankings ago to really bottom 5 last meta, and it's really weird to see the effect that the Fisherman has had on inside this entire game in terms of this legendary list. If you look at all the big movers and shakers, all the big changes, a lot of that you can just trace back to the Fisherman. Now, Sparky is a really interesting card right now inside the meta. I did mention that we're seeing more Ewiz to kind of help combat Sparky, but one thing you never want to see behind your opponent's tower is a Sparky. You just know it's going to be rather difficult to deal with. At least most of you do. That's the way I feel, right? So Sparky's really strong. You can synergize Sparky with, again, that Fisherman to pull everything into her range, and it's just really prevalent right now in all sorts of kind of weird decks, right? We saw Royal Recruit Sparky, we see Royal Giant Sparky, we even see Mega Knight Sparky, as I mentioned earlier in this video. So Sparky is back. Viva la Sparky. I'm pretty happy about it. How do you guys feel? Either way, she comes in at number 4 on our list. So here we are to the top 3 of our list, ladies and gentlemen. Number 3 is going to be Lava Hound. Lava Hound is, again, at the time of this recording, the number 1 win rate legendary on ladder. Obviously, the number 1 win rate is Fisherman at tournament level standard and everywhere else inside the game, but because a lot of people haven't leveled him up, well, Lava Hound takes the cake again. Lava Hound is extremely powerful right now. Lava Clone's still kind of going around to my annoyance, and I'm sure to thousands of you guys as well, but also Lava Miner is a thing. Lava Loon is still very strong inside the meta, so I think that Lava Hound users are pretty satisfied right now. It's not the strongest it's ever been, but she's definitely still holding strong both mid-ladder, high ladder, and a little bit at tournament level standard in CRL. That's why Lava Hound comes in at number 3. Coming in at number 2, relinquishing his role as number 1 in almost every legendary ranking list, is the Miner. The Miner is still incredibly versatile for 3 elixir. He's used in a variety of different decks, from heavy ground beatdown to heavy air beatdown to Miner control to Miner cycle. Miner is just everywhere. Again, I like the Miner. I've said this in all my legendary ranking videos, so I'll keep it short here, guys. But I think that the legendary Miner is what a lot of legendary cards ought to kind of strive to be inside the game, right? Really, really strong, not necessarily pervasive, not necessarily overpowered, just really versatile, and just bring something new to the table. Remember, before Miner, there was no kind of troop type card that you could place on the opponent's side of the arena. Heck, there's still not a troop type card. I really love the concept of Miner, and we're seeing it strong from the day he was added until this very day. A card that's really, I don't think, ever been nerfed. I could be wrong there, just off the top of my head. Either way, he comes in at number 2 because he's still damn strong inside the game. Let's move on to number 1. That's right, number 1, not even close, is the Fisherman. The Fisherman went from the very last ranked legendary card in the game to the very first ranked legendary card in the game. The proverbial from worst to first rise to fame of the Fisherman has been really just, I mean, incredibly noticeable, to say the least, inside the game. He has the highest win rates and one of the highest use rates inside grand challenges, inside CRL. He's really made his way into every deck archetype. We talk about this on the channel a lot, guys. When you see one legendary card being super popular in a variety of different archetypes, it's usually a sign it might be it might be verging on overpowered. Of course, we said the same about Miner. He's not overpowered. So what makes Fisherman so overpowered? Well, he has absolutely shredded the meta. He has turned the entire game upside down. We're seeing cards that were never used before, used a lot, like Giant Skeleton. We're seeing cards like Sparky, for example, who's kind of fallen out of the meta, and we're just really seeing him just provide an incredible amount of value for 3 elixir. He doesn't have just one role, he has tons of different roles, and that's another thing that makes him really strong, in my opinion. The element that he can be used on defense to activate king towers. He can pull troops into a P.E.K.K.A, pull troops into a Sparky, pull troops into a Hunter. There we go. He can pull troops into a lot of stuff, and he can just make life really annoying after you've activated king tower, and really just hard counter golem decks and giant decks and goblin giant decks and hog decks. He provides a ton of utility, not just on defense, but also on offense. He can pull counter troops away from your hog or your P.E.K.K.A or whatever you battle ram, whatever you have going down the lane. He can pull them away and really negate them defensively. Have you ever been in a match where the opponent's kind of stacked up Fisherman against you at the bridge? It can be so frustrating to be like, okay, it doesn't matter. Whatever I place down, I'm just going to have Fisherman pulling it away, and I lost GG. That can be a frustrating situation to be in. I do see Fisherman probably getting a nerf. I think they took that buff a little bit too far, despite that kind of emergency HP nerf to make him die to lightning. Lightning's not even that popular right now inside the meta, and it's only 3 elixir, so it's not like you're providing too much value to your opponent. Again, I see him getting nerfed in the balance changes on October 7th, but guys, let me know. What do you think of my legendary ranking list? There's a lot of cards now. It was very difficult, and I did some last minute adjustments as well as I was even recording this video. So guys, huge shout out to Bren Chong and to Stats Royale, my YouTube partners. Check out their information in the show notes below. Thanks for watching, and as always, take care, guys.